Hello everyone, today I'm going to give you guys a review of the Spyderco Sage 1. Now this is what I would consider a small EDC knife. I often carry this in as more of a gentleman's knife in a lot of situations when I'm dressed up, wearing maybe some golf pants, a suit, something like that. There's a couple features that make this knife a very adequate gentleman's folder, as well as a great EDC blade, and I will get to that right now. So where should I start? Maybe I'll start with the pocket clip here. So, as you guys can see, this is one of Spyderco's famous wire pocket clips. At first, I was a huge fan of this when I received this knife. I'll be honest though, this clip did end up bending on me with no snagging whatsoever. It seemed the way I wore this knife in my rear pocket. I wore it to work in an office environment for maybe 3-4 consecutive weeks, and by the end of it, I noticed the clip was bent maybe to about, it was bent out maybe this much, if you can see that. If you can see how much bent off the knife that is, that's a lot. So what I did is I called Spyderco. I spoke with them. They told me there's no warranty against their clips and whatnot. So I said, okay. So I purchased another clip for this knife. And what I did with the existing clip is I put it in my vise. I tried to fix it and bend it back as carefully as I could. And this is the repaired clip here. You can see a little bit of wear right here for where it was in the vise. Ultimately, it's okay. I fixed it. It's not perfect. The retention isn't how the knife was, but on the other hand, I do have a brand new clip, and I was just going to continue using this, and then eventually maybe switch over to the new one if I felt the need to do so. But this is reversible. It's only tip-up carry, so keep that in mind, but it is reversible for right and left-handed carry. There's the slots to just screw the clip in there. This knife is a nice carbon fiber texture, and not like some of the other Spyderco knives that have a very, very smooth carbon fiber. There is some ripples to this, and I don't know if you can tell in the video. If you can hear just by scraping my nail against it. It does have some texture to it, and it's not the most grippy of handle materials, but it's definitely smoother than an all aluminum or an all titanium handle. The black carbon fiber makes this knife look quite elegant, and that's why I do enjoy carrying this knife in a dressy environment. I really like the open pillar design of the Sage 1. That makes this knife really easy to clean, and it really doesn't retain all that much lint. Mind you, when you look close enough, there's a considerable amount of pocket lint in this knife. And that pocket lint seems to be embedded in the nice milled out holes of these stainless steel liners of this knife. So the stainless steel liners add a little bit of rigidity to this knife. They're also a great trap for some dust and lint, but that's no problem. A little bit of compressed air, just spray it in there, and or even blow with your mouth, and you'll get a lot of that lint out. This knife is very easy to maintain and easy to clean. Looking closely in the pivot area here, this knife sports the phosphor bronze bushings, which you can see on this side there and this side there. Makes for some very smooth deployment for this knife. At first, the knife came a little bit stiff. With some working in, it's extremely smooth now. Sorry, but with little effort, this knife flips out here and makes a nice crisp sound. Sorry, I'm not doing this fantastic through the viewfinder, but hopefully you get the idea. This knife, again, when you open it smoothly, I don't know if you'll be able to hear anything. It's very smooth. Lockup is quite good. This is a liner lock knife. Typically, I'm not the biggest fan of liner locks. In this particular case, I like the knife a lot. I'll let you take a look here. So it's engaged maybe 30% on the blade. I've never had any sticking with this lock bar. It depresses very, very easily to close the knife, even left-handed here. So I do like this lock, despite it being a liner lock. This knife is very light. Let me get into a little bit of specifications here. First of all, the blade steel. This knife sports a nice super steel, as some people would call it. One of the more premium blade steels that you can get in knives now. This is a CPM S30V. Spyderco heat treats their S30V spectacularly. I've had very good experience with this knife. Now, in general, S30V steel, I don't polish it the same way I do, for example, a VG10 or a 154 CM, because I find S30V loses its razor sharp ability quite fast. But again, as you'll read in the forums and hear from other people's experience, and even see if you get enough experience yourself, S30V keeps quite a good usable edge a little bit longer than a VG10 or 154 CM. Although it may not be as razor sharp, it is definitely usably sharp. So what I do in order to kind of compensate for that is I leave this edge a little bit toothier. I stop this at about 800 grit stones. So if you run your nail along it, you can feel the slightest bit of tooth in there, and you definitely feel the bite. Really quickly, let's just show you on some paper. So the toothy edge I really prefer for cutting foods and meats. It bites into the meat very well. It doesn't seem to be doing an extravagant job cutting the paper. But again, like I said, this is quite a toothy edge on here. So I guess I can cut a little bit differently. But you get the point. It's a sharp knife. It bites your nail really hard if you were to, for example, bring it up here, and you were to just push this against your nail. It bites and it shaves the nail. It's a sharp knife. S30V keeps that edge well, like I said before. I don't have any, I would say, hard use, or some people would call abuse, on this particular knife. I tend to just use this for opening boxes, cutting cardboard, paper, office tasks, and around the house tasks. This knife holds up well. I am a little disappointed initially that the clip bent, and just because the way I set this in my pants here, the knife would be like this as I would be on my soft chair, and my pants were pulling the clip outwards like this away from the knife. And I guess with repeated use day after day, similar style pants, eventually the clip yielded and did come a little bit off the knife. It is an easy fix in the vise, just to bend it back. But again, if you guys are familiar with even bending paper clips as a kid, something like that, you'll recognize that when you rebend the same steel multiple times, it will eventually lose its strength and break. It will get harder and harder in terms of hardness, just as the material properties of steel will, until it eventually reaches the deformation and the breaking part. So keep that in mind. You don't want to keep rebending these clips because they will break. However, once or twice is not an issue, but again, that's why I purchased another clip, so I have one of those ready to go if I need it. Very smooth knife, nice deployment. Another thing, you can middle finger deploy the Spyderco knife. There's other Spyderco knives that I have a hard time doing that with. For example, my Endura 4. However, this, you can do that if you really wanted to. It's not so popular in the Sage models as it is with the Endura, but you could, and I've tried it, put a zip tie on here and use kind of the Emerson wave functionality. So as you go to pull it out of your pocket, the zip tie will protrude right here. Zip tie will catch on your pocket. So as you go to pull out, the knife will open and you will come out in a grip like this out of your pants. That's an option if you want to. This isn't particularly a tactical knife. It is a relatively short blade. In fact, the length of this blade is exactly 3 inches. A couple very big wins for this knife is the weight. This is a very light knife, only 3.2 ounces or 91 grams, which relative to most other knives is less for a knife of similar size with similar materials. Also, the traction plan on this knife, very good. You notice you have the choil up right underneath the blade there, and if this can focus, it will show you this does have some very usable jimping up here, and this is a way I frequently use the knife, where you let your front finger there sit inside this choil, and you can really choke up, do some detailed work here. With a 3-inch blade, you're choking up quite a bit. You're right close to what you're doing, and this allows you to remain in very good control through your tasks. The leaf-shaped blade is very functional for most tasks. Full flat grind is great for cutting food. This is a knife that I don't hesitate to pull out in a restaurant and cut my food with, whether it's steak or some other kind of meat. because this isn't the most intimidating of knives, yet it has a great edge. The full flat grind is very appropriate for food prep. Like I said before, this knife is extremely easy to clean. S30V is quite corrosion resistant. It's not the best, and I will make a note. One time after a restaurant, I used it to cut some steak, and I just briefly wiped it off with a napkin, and I had some rust spots the next day on this blade, and they were not, you know, profusely rust protruding from the top of the blade. It was some minor rust, and that came off with some rags and a little bit of solvents I used to remove that. So it's not visible anymore, but it was there. So just a word of caution: make sure you take care of your knife and you don't put it away dirty or oily or greasy or wet, because S30V can and will corrode. It's not the most corrosive metal, but again, it's not completely corrosion resistant, like, for example, Spyderco Pacific Salt in H1. This knife, you can let it sit in the water, take it out, put it away wet. This knife will not rust, because that is exactly what this H1 steel is designed to do. Will you focus, maybe? Okay. So, there you have it. Spyderco Sage 1, the first knife of the Sage family that I own. Very good knife in my opinion. Frequently gets carried, even though I carried it for a long portion without the clip. I just let it sit in the bottom of my pocket. I find I use the knife a lot more when I do have it on the clip. It's easier to get out. It's more accessible. Even by a small amount, it makes a little bit of a difference when you're doing tasks that can also almost just as easily be done with your hands. Just so you guys know, because I know some people care about this, this knife is made in Taiwan, but that is no testament to the fit and finish of this knife. Everything of this knife is finished beautifully, from the nice chamfering around the carbon fiber handles here. There's no burrs on the metal whatsoever. Clean machine work in and throughout the knife. It came with a very nice grind from the factory, even though I've resharpened it. I had some use on it and dulled the initial edge. Yeah, overall, this is a great knife. It's a knife that I would recommend you guys to look into purchasing if it fits your needs. Again, you don't want to stretch this into a role where you're abusing it or could damage the knife, but that goes with all tools. Use your tool for its intended purpose. Yeah, so great traction plan on this knife. Great steel, very lightweight, very smooth, and open pillar construction. Those are some of the highlights and key takeaways. Again, a lot of people care that this is a very low ride clip, so let me just mention to you, when you're carrying this knife, it sits about this low in your pocket, only this much is exposed. It's not obvious to everyone that it's a knife, but anyone who knows anything about knives will know that this is a knife. So, there you have it, my review of the Spyderco Sage 1 carbon fiber CPM S30V. Thank you guys very much for watching. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll be doing many more knife reviews and gear reviews in the future. Thank you, and have a good day.